What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, rising, welterweight, Mexican superstar, title contender, Vergil Ortiz Jr. He will be taking on former WBO junior welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who's turned welterweight title contender, Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker, this Saturday night. With that said, Vergil Ortiz Jr. is 16-0, 16 wins by way of knockout. He is 22 years of age. He stands at 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. He will be taking on Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker, who is 27 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws on his resume. He is 31 years of age, stands at 5'11" with an 80-inch arm reach. Okay. With that said, Vergil Ortiz, he's looking through Mighty Mo Maurice Hooker to Maurice Hooker, good friend and stablemate, undefeated 3-division world champion, who currently is the WBO welterweight world champion, who was the undisputed junior welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Terence Bud Crawford. Vergil Ortiz, he states that I'm at number 2 in the WBO ranking system at welterweight, so that makes me right up there for Terence Crawford's WBO belt. And after I walk through and dominate his good friend and stablemate, Maurice Hooker, this Saturday night, I'm going to go right up to Terence Crawford and tell him, let's make the fight. He says, I know Terence Crawford will be in attendance because Terence Crawford's trainer, Brian McIntyre, and manager is also Maurice Hooker's trainer and manager. And he states that I'm going to go right up to him because I also know that Terence Crawford, Terence Crawford indulges in training as well. So I'm almost certain that he'll be there. And so he could watch me dominate his friend and stablemate Maurice Hooker. And then I'm going to go up and challenge him. So that fight has to happen. He says that 90% chance that that fight happens this year. He's not sure if it's going to happen next or it's going to happen sometime in the future. But he's also certain that it's going to happen in 2021. He said it's inevitable that it's going to take place. And he says that he's going to beat Terence Crawford. He says he's excited to fight Terence Crawford. Now, we know Terence Crawford is much more seasoned than Vergil Ortiz is. Terence Crawford is seen by many as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Some people feel like Terence Crawford is number 2, 3. But you definitely have him in the top 3 best fighters in the world currently today. Terence Crawford has a resume of 37 wins, 0 losses, 28 wins by way of knockout. He's 33 years of age, stands at 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Okay, so Vergil Ortiz has a 2-inch height advantage over Terence Crawford, and he is much younger. He's 11 years younger than Terence Crawford. Okay. Terence Crawford has 74-inch arm reach. So Terence Crawford has very, very long arms to be a 5'8". So with that said, Vergil Ortiz, he likes his chances against Terence Crawford. And he absolutely loves his chances against Maurice Hooker. This is no walk in the park. Vergil Ortiz has a 70-inch arm reach, but Terence Crawford has a 4-inch arm reach advantage over Vergil Ortiz Jr. With that said, Vergil Ortiz Jr., he will be 23 this month. Vergil Ortiz Jr. is very, very confident. He's knocked out every opponent he's faced. This is a tough task at hand for Vergil Ortiz Jr. with Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker. Maurice Hooker, he presents a serious challenge for Vergil Ortiz. This is a serious step up. Maurice Hooker was a world champion. He fought and lost his belt to Jose Ramirez in a unification bout. He was stopped in that fight. But he had his moments, and some people thought he was winning the fight up until the stoppage against Jose Ramirez. That's the only blemish on his resume. He has very long arms with an 80-inch arm reach. He's very tall at 5'11", and he has power in both hands. He's very technical as well. Now, Vergil Ortiz obviously is the much bigger guy physically, stature-wise, right? He's an inch shorter and has 10-inch arm reach disadvantage to Maurice Hooker. It's 70 inches. Maurice Hooker has 80-inch arm reach. So, he has a 10-inch arm reach advantage over Vergil Ortiz. But he gives up his height. He doesn't always fight his height. That is Maurice Hooker. He doesn't always fight his height. He gives away his height, and I believe that Vergil Ortiz has the power edge in this fight as well. But this is going to be a barn burner. And with that said, he says that he's going to go right up to Terence Crawford. Now, I think that's a grave mistake on the part of Vergil Ortiz Jr. His trainer, legendary trainer, Robert Garcia. Robert Garcia, he trains world champions. Robert Garcia knows the sport of boxing because he himself was a world champion at one point in time. But Robert Garcia, he feels like Vergil Ortiz Jr. is ready for this Terence Crawford fight as well, and feels like they're going to push forward with this Terence Crawford fight. Like I said, I think this is a huge mistake on their part because I think that Terence Crawford, is just too seasoned, too versatile. Vergil Ortiz can be very flat-footed at times. Terence Crawford can switch from southpaw to orthodox fluently. He has a 4-inch arm reach advantage over Vergil Ortiz. He has just as much power, if not more power, than Vergil Ortiz. He's much slicker than Vergil Ortiz, and ultimately he has the most advantage, right, is the experience edge. His experience to Vergil Ortiz's experience is night and day, okay? He's double his fights. With 16 fights, this will be Vergil Ortiz's 17th fight. So Terence Crawford double him in fights, okay? Terence Crawford has 37 fights in his career. He has more knockouts than Vergil Ortiz has fights, okay, at 28 knockouts. And if you combine Vergil Ortiz's 17 wins, if should he get past Maurice Hooker, that would be, 32 fights compared to Terence Crawford's 37 fights. And he's double him in fights and experience. And he's been on the big stage. He's been a champion in 3 different weight classes. Vergil Ortiz has yet to fight for a world title, nor has he obviously been a world champion. So Terence Crawford has the edge in that department. Terence Crawford is much more sharper. He's a sharper puncher. And Vergil Ortiz has a lot of learning to do. I believe that this is a bad push on the part of Robert Garcia and Vergil Ortiz Sr. and Vergil Ortiz Jr. I don't know what it is that they see in Terence Crawford. Maybe they feel like Terence Crawford is starting to wind down his career. Maybe they feel like Terence Crawford is starting to show vulnerability, chinks in the armor. I don't know. I haven't seen that. Terence Crawford's fight with Kell Brook, he made the necessary adjustments. And from the point he made the adjustment, it was all she wrote. It was downhill for Kell Brook from there. Igor Kavalauskas, Terence Crawford chose to fight him in the pocket, in which he showed glimpses of vulnerability. He even got unofficially dropped in the fight. But Terence Crawford chose to fight that fight. Terence Crawford could choose to outbox you, as he did Victor Postile and Jose Benavidez Jr., or he could choose to fight you in the pocket like he did Igor Kavalauskas and Kell Brook ultimately, right? Kell Brook, yes, he was having success with the jab, from range, and Terence Crawford was having a hard time, getting inside of Kell Brook's jab, and Kell Brook was, beating him to the punch. His jab was first, right? But Kell Brook is far more experienced than Vergil Ortiz Jr., you understand? So Kell Brook, is a big, strong guy like Vergil Ortiz Jr., but Kell Brook has a lot more experience. Kell Brook was a world champion. Kell Brook has been on the big stage, so it's a completely different scenario. Kell Brook himself has 42 fights. And right now, 39 wins, 3 losses, 27 wins by way of knockout. And he has a 69-inch arm reach with standing at 5'9". So he has similar stature to that of Vergil Ortiz Jr. Vergil Ortiz obviously is much younger. And at this point in time, much more durable than Kell Brook. But with that said, Kell Brook has the edge and experience. He's been there before. He's done it before. He understands what to expect. And even he suffered, a stoppage loss to Terence Crawford. So with that said, I'm expecting, Terence Crawford, if this fight with Terence Crawford and Vergil Ortiz does come to fruition, Vergil Ortiz said it would be the perfect storyline, because Terence Crawford will want to get back for his good friend and stablemate Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker losing to Vergil Ortiz. So he says that it's the perfect storyline. The fight would be huge, and he believes he could beat Terence Crawford. I don't. I believe that Terence Crawford could possibly derail Vergil Ortiz's career, because I think it would be a bad loss. Okay, I think it would be a stoppage loss. I think that Terence Crawford will find his way on the inside. Terence Crawford has quicker feet. He has more educated feet than Vergil Ortiz Jr. And he's just far more athletic and experienced, and he's in the prime of his career. You know, so I believe that Terence Crawford will be able to close the gap. He'll find his way on the inside, and it will be a bad stoppage loss on the part of Vergil Ortiz, because Terence Crawford is just quicker, he's more athletic, and he has a mean streak in him with both and power in both hands. So I believe that Vergil Ortiz has slow feet. You know, he's not the quickest guy in the world. He's not as elusive, the most elusive guy in the world. Now, it would be a world title opportunity for Vergil Ortiz Jr., but I believe that Terence Crawford would derail his career ultimately. But let's see how this unfolds. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.